Okay, point number 6. Chemical imbalances don't really exist. Oh, yeah. Chemical imbalances don't really exist. Do you know that the science, and Candace Pert talks about this, she's the discoverer of endorphin and kephalin and how serotonin receptors and all that, and she said the research that has led to the widespread use of Prozac, Zoloft, all of these things is so tenuous. I want to read you something from a colleague of mine, James Gordon, who has a new book coming out called Unstuck. He's a psychiatrist, extraordinarily well trained, and has worked at the NIH and all over the world. And this is what Jim says. This book will challenge the prevailing medical model of depression and the widespread, even epidemic use of chemical antidepressants. This narrow model of diagnosis and treatment insists that those who feel helpless and hopeless, unhappy and uncertain, have a disease like insulin-dependent diabetes, which requires a pharmacologic treatment. I'll offer you evidence that strongly suggests that this model is poorly justified, largely inappropriate, limited and limiting, and often enough dangerous to your physical, emotional, and spiritual health. The antidepressants that it dictates should be used seldom as a last resort and briefly, not as a form of primary care. The biggest pharmacy you will ever find is the one between your ears, because every thought you think creates a cascade of biochemical changes in your body that are measurable. And every cell in your body communicates instantly with every other cell in your body. And every cell in one of your bodies, believe it or not, communicates instantly with every cell in my body. And I'm thinking that the energy shift that we do tonight is the best hope for the war in Iraq, peace on the planet, cleaning up all kinds of pollution. That's what we're doing tonight. See, you've been led to think of this, oh, this is just a little fluff piece. We're going to go see that nutty gynecologist telling us about orgasmic birth. See, this is what you do, with sequins and pink stuff that doesn't amount. This isn't real. This is the only thing that will change anything. Now, I've written enough prescriptions for enough stuff. I call those the bridge across the river. Most people don't want to get out of the boat. I'd like you to get out of the boat. I think it's time we all got on the other side. Okay. Oh, a word about negative pleasure. This is negative pleasure. If you don't have anything good to say, sit by me. Okay? Negative pleasure is the machine that runs the National Enquirer, In Touch magazine, People magazine, and here's how it works. If you can see some rich, thin, model-type woman who makes a ton of money, having problems with drugs, alcohol, her husband, her marriage, whatever, then it makes your life seem so much better. Because even these people with so-called fabulous lives, fabulous bodies, the right breast size and so on, and a good rear end, even they have problems. So you must be not so bad. I would say to you that the more and more you get into producing your own joy, every moment, the less appeal those publications will have to you. Have any of you found that? I found that. And, they just have less appeal to me. A friend gave me a subscription to the National Enquirer once. Yeah, do you believe it? So I had a year of negative pleasure. Sometimes they have the right stuff. They were the first ones that published the actual medical documentation about acupuncture and how if you inject radioactive gadolinium in an actual acupuncture point, it showed the meridian, going right up the meridian versus a sham point. Very impressive. Years and years before anyone else. The problem is separating the wheat from the chaff, And, those strange serpents with the babies' heads or whatever it is. Okay. So that stuff is not very good for joy. However, we all have to look at our tendency to like a little negative pleasure. Because, it is fun once in a while, you got to admit. It's fun, you know? Okay, now, are you ready for the 10-point prescription for joy? This is what you're going to do. This is what's going to do it for you. Number 1, understand that joy is a deliberate choice. It's an inside job, and it begins with a decision. It's practical. Very practical to be joyous, because let me give you the not so practical approach. If you do not put joy into your agenda deliberately, because it creates these biochemical changes in your brain that are so beneficial, increasing serotonin, decreasing cortisol and stress hormones, making you sleep better, all that. If you don't do it deliberately, what do? You do it by default. You do it through sugar, drugs, and alcohol. Right? Yeah. You know who you are. I know who I am, anyway. I used to know where every good chocolate brownie was in the whole state of Maine. Pretty much. Yeah. And now I don't need it nearly as much. A smaller amount will do most of the time. Not all the time, and then I know it's time to watch a funny movie or something of that nature. So, number 2, joy takes practice and discipline. Nothing is easier than negativity. You have the entire culture helping you with negativity, don't you? Turn on the television. Read the newspaper. If you don't have a good foundation and basis for joy in your life, you can get off track so easily. So depending on how much recovery you have on board or how much joy biochemistry you have on board, you might just not watch the news for a week or 2. I don't think I've watched the news in years. And you know what people say? Well, I might miss something. See, that's what they want you to believe. I might miss something. I've never missed anything that I didn't need to know. Someone will tell you, plus we already know about the weather. It's wrong. So, here's how I do the weather. I go outside, I look up. That's how I do it. Pretty much. And anything you need to know, someone will tell you. You'll know. I have friends here from Florida. They said, up here, it's the storms in Florida. She calls it the funnel of negativity about the hurricanes. It's going to be on this coast. It's going to be on that coast. See, I thought that we were the only ones with the weather thing. The Buffalo, the Maine. They got the same thing in Florida. You can't get away. I think they have a contract with the major grocery stores. Yeah, because people hear, and then they all run. And then there's a run on the grocery store for milk. It's unbelievable. Okay. You have to make joy welcome. It's sort of like emotional feng shui. You got to give it a little space in your brain. And it takes some practice.